Dear black people, you guys need to understand, you guys are hypercritical over us white people. Like, I know the past runs deep. I know. But like, you guys are extremely critical of us now, when we have not even been given one single chance, not one single chance, to fix the shit that our ancestors did.
I'm sorry, what? You haven't been given one single chance? Telling black people to get off our necks? Like what? Take away being held accountable for the things that we benefit from through absolutely no action on our part? Like we were just handed all of this privilege and we can't be in any way responsible or accountable for it? Content like this is gaslighting at best, harmful and violent in reality. What have you done, babe? Like, in your personal spaces, what have you done that you did not physically harm a black person?
My family fought to save their farm under this flag. Who was working that farm? My family was. Who was working the farm? They were poor. Do you know how much a slave cost back then?
There's actually a knowable answer to that question.
And gang, slavery was so bad, I don't even know how the fuck we still cool white people right now.
You know, I'm probably the least qualified person to talk about this shit, but most people might look at what he said and think, oh my god, why is he mad about something that happened 200 years ago, dude? Get over it. The truth is, it's not actually about 200 years ago. It's about what never healed. Most people might look at the video that he made and say, oh my god, slavery ended almost 2 centuries ago. Why are people still angry? Here's the truth, dog, okay? Trauma does not disappear just because the calendar moves. Trauma gets passed down in families the same way eye color and height does.
Ever notice how most white people are very silent about racism? They're quiet about calling it out when they see it. They refuse to talk about it in everyday life, but then proceed to say, yeah, I treat everybody the same. I'm not racist. You know, I love everybody. When they see injustices, when oppression cannot be ignored, they manage to do just that.
And gang, slavery was so bad, I don't even know how the fuck we still cool white people right now.
You know, I'm probably the least qualified person to talk about this shit, but most people might look at what he said and think, oh my god, why is he mad about something that happened 200 years ago, dude? Get over it. The truth is, it's not actually about 200 years ago. It's about what never healed. Most people might look at the video that he made and say, oh my god, slavery ended almost 2 centuries ago. Why are people still angry? Here's the truth, dog, okay? Trauma does not disappear just because the calendar moves. Trauma gets passed down in families the same way eye color and height does. A grandma teaches her son how to survive in a world that treated her like she was less than human. That son teaches his child. The fear, the resentment, the distrust, it becomes culture when society never truly fixed the root. This is the truth, okay? White families, broadly speaking, get to pass down land, wealth, property, business, safety. Black families, again, broadly speaking, pass down survival skills, trauma, how to avoid getting killed by the police talks, pain, distrust. That's not 200 years ago. That's yesterday for them. That's yesterday for them. You understand? Bro, to be honest, and I could be wrong about this, I feel like the anger is not really about white people. It's about the system. Most black people don't actually hate individual white people. What they resent is the system that benefited white people, disadvantaged black people, and never fully corrected the imbalance. Put it like this, right? It's like if someone robbed your family for 10 generations and then said, let's forget about it, it's in the past. Meanwhile, they're still living in the house that they stole. That's what it feels like. The other thing too, bro, is that America never apologized, healed, or repaired. The trauma wasn't just slavery. It was 100 years of legal segregation, banning black people from schools, jobs, neighborhoods, restaurants, public areas, banning interracial marriage, lynching, redlining, which for those of you that don't know, it pretty much means blocking wealth, mass incarceration, police brutality, and pretending it's a history issue instead of a current structure that manifested in different ways in modern times. White immigrants came to America and got loans, neighborhoods, business assistance. You know what black Americans got? Good luck.
Not excuse being so flippant with the reality that black people find themselves in today because of white people, your forefathers, my forefathers. I also heard a lot of centering of yourself, centering your whiteness and your kind heart, and asking why black people can't see that. What I didn't see was any action, any ideas, any thoughts, and certainly any evidence of the fact that you've done anything in those 30 years to try to change the trajectory of being black in our country. You were asking black people to give you examples of where you can be an ally and a supporter. Why is that their problem? You need to be going out and finding those opportunities to use your spaces and your privilege to change the course of blackness in our country. I would love to hear from you what you say in a braai amongst white people like yourself, where it inevitably goes to black economic empowerment and how sad everybody is that their husbands were passed up for an opportunity. I want to hear what you say then, because that is an example of the type of place where you need to speak up. Not standing here creating content that centers you. If you are so open-minded and so ready to mend bridges and tell black people that they should stop being hurt by the history that got them to this point today, and that they should stop aiming any hurt at white people, then what are you doing to drive that? How are you advocating for equality? How are you speaking about equity? What institutions you're a part of, what organizations you support, how you show up in the world. And then we can have this conversation. But this is unsubstantiated and surface level and incredibly unkind.
History is teaching white Americans how white slave owners raped, beat, humiliated, mutilated, murdered, and cannibalized their slaves. Accurate history is teaching that George Washington's false teeth were made out of his slaves' teeth. Accurate history is teaching that Abraham Lincoln may have said some words and signed some shit, but he did not physically do anything to free the slaves. The white abolitionists also often get almost total credit for freeing the slaves. I bet you've never even asked yourself what the slaves were doing to free themselves, and the answer to that is most of the fucking work, including giving the ultimatum of war. But then we get a bunch of white people mad that their kids might feel guilty if we teach real history. It's not about your white child's feelings. Teaching accurate history isn't about white people's feelings, but that does sound like something that someone who's only ever been taught a white glorifying version of history would counter with. Ask why we ever felt like we needed to curate a false version of what white people did and did not do to black people to begin with. And then ask yourself why white ass politicians are verbally attacking real history by calling it slurs, which is by default also the act of calling black people slurs.
I'm not gonna lie to you, it's hard to be surprised by how absurdly evil the US operates if you have like a real functioning knowledge of chattel slavery. And this is not a dig, like people are actively barred from better education and the totality of the horrors of chattel slavery because it allows them to like obfuscate how uniquely evil it was. This is one of the reasons why white separatists and Christian nationalists and conservatives love to bring up like, oh, there was already a slave trade, Africans were selling Africans, Arabs were selling Africans. Like, yes, there's an Arabic slave trade, there was an African slave trade, but they were not the same as the US's. They know that, which is why they're nostalgic for the time. A lot of people don't realize one of the reasons why race relations in the US isn't muddied the way that it is in Europe or in other colonies that they had is because we had no pathway to personhood. That was a unique quality of American slavery. Every other place had a path to citizenship or personhood. You can buy your way into freedom. You could breed your way into freedom. That's how we get like the mulatto. This was big in Spanish and Portuguese colonies. If you bred out enough African, you would be freed. If you married out, like in Brazil or in Portuguese colonies, you would be freed. No such thing existed here. It was the one drop rule. That matters. It's one of the reasons why historically I don't see why we use like BIPOC language, because it's not about everybody else. And this isn't like in a good way, but it's the reality. Like the US is very much still reconciling with a black-white racial conflict. The rest of y'all are collateral. That sounds mean, but it's the truth. And history shows us that, because even amongst its other enslaving white counterparts, the US was still amongst their contemporaries regarded as a uniquely evil form of enslaver. Very stringent race relations. And all of it is contemporary. We are living in derivatives and replications of the plantation every day. And I'm thinking about it a lot, because seeing these people be like extrajudiciously deported, whether or not they're citizens, whether or not they're here legally, borders aren't real. I don't care about them. But you get what I mean. This like no tolerance policy of the other is like really fascinating if you know like how much work it took to maintain the power of whiteness. The fact that post enslavement, after the Reconstruction period, they had to restructure what whiteness was because of their numbers. And it's the racial anxieties accompanied by white folks' fear of black retaliation that led to them subsuming other groups that were not considered white into their own as a self-preservation tactic. This is where we see them giving the Irish and the Italians and the Jewish people a chance to like audition into whiteness, to bulk their numbers. And this is something they've been thinking about for a long time. It's why the Great Replacement theory is literally the bedrock of conservatism. This is just a contemporary version of white enslavers being absurdly cruel and then writing in their diaries about how they fear about being killed by their like slaves at night. This is just that with Google. But one of the other reasons why they make sure that people don't know the full scope of chattel slavery in the American context is to see like where it was failed otherwise, when people would try to replicate it elsewhere. After the Civil War, tens of thousands of white enslavers took their plantations, uprooted them, and placed them in Brazil, because, not so fun fact, I guess, Brazil was the last in the West to abolish slavery. They didn't get rid of it until 1888. They were also the colony with the most enslaved Africans total. This is why the largest black population outside of the continent of Africa is Brazil. When these white enslavers got there, again, fleeing having to get rid of their plantations, they wrote endlessly about how homesick they were, not just because of things like the climate and the fact that they weren't allowed to fully replicate the same plantations. Like, for instance, a lot of them wanted to grow cotton. You can't do that in a subtropical climate like Brazil. But explicitly, their biggest gripe with Brazil was with its race relations, because they had a freed black population. Because Brazil, a Portuguese colony, was one where you could breed out blackness, you could buy out of enslavement. There was a path to citizenship. They were considered people there, and that was something white enslavers physically couldn't conceive of. It's quite literally what led to tens of thousands of them coming back to the States. A few successfully settled there. That's why you get the town of Americana in Brazil. That's how you get this like ethnic group considered the Confederados, which are the descendants of these previously enslavers who then started to mix with the local, Brazilian population over time. And one of the reasons why the Confederados and Americana settlement is at the top of my mind is that when these tens of thousands of homesick, like middle class, they weren't like the most wealthy, but semi-wealthy white enslavers were done with their like Brazilian project, they petitioned the US to help subsidize their travel back, because they spent all their money trying to replicate their plantations in Brazil. And the US did! Like, the US literally helped pay to repatriate these enslavers back to the States, specifically back to the South. And it's this knowledge that blows my mind all the time, where it's like, my tax dollars, your tax dollars are being used to send people wherever the fuck this administration wants them to go. And this is the same country that was like paying out reparations to white enslavers for loss of product and income. The same country that, when after a civil war had tens of thousands of defectors leave to maintain slavery, they helped pay to bring back. That's this country's legacy. That's why I always say the US is profoundly unique in its evil. Our race relations are very clear. This is not like a brown, black, like melting pot struggle. This is all about reminding black people our ultimate place, which is as being a proprietary force for white America. And everyone else is essentially just collateral. You have to get everyone else out because they are amongst us. But also, if there are less of the brown, less groups in between us, it'll be much easier to legislate and navigate a white-black racial caste system, which is why they are deeply nostalgic for the American past, because uniquely speaking, within the context of transatlantic slavery, we were the ones with the harshest, most violent race politic. And that's what they are seeking again. Race relations is the very reason why our left politics is considered the right in Europe. This country is soulless for a reason. And this isn't to say that Europe didn't have its problems. Again, they are the reason we had these colonies. They're a reason that many people speak Spanish, that a quarter of the world is Francophone. Why by folks who should have never heard about a pope have Catholic names. But ultimately, this is just the pot of racial violence and terror boiling over finally post-Civil War. Because it's not enough that they didn't punish the South. They were actively rewarding them, giving them positions of power and telling them to just replicate what they needed quietly. And that's what happened. And we're living in the after of that. And I think if more people had a better education about the totality of chattel slavery in the American context, they would be less occupied with preserving the perceived soul of the country and more interested in, after the shit burns down, what can we build that's better? I've been begging y'all to get woke on transatlantic slavery for so long, and Reconstruction specifically for so long, for this purpose. Because the black folks who were allowed to have this education, we knew time was a ticking, and the time is now.
Ever notice how most white people are very silent about racism? They're quiet about calling it out when they see it. They refuse to talk about it in everyday life, but then proceed to say, yeah, I treat everybody the same. I'm not racist. I love everybody. When they see injustices, when oppression cannot be ignored, they manage to do just that. Pretend like it's not happening. For their comfort. When you don't speak up on something, when you pretend it's not as big of an issue as it actually is, when you say, I'm a good person, I treat everybody the same. So what these other white people are doing to harm and oppress other people has nothing to do with me, so I can stay quiet and just allow it to happen. That is prioritizing your comfort over justice. That is what's keeping this whole system that white people designed alive. This whole racial hierarchy. And you are scared of rejection from other white people, if you're scared to talk about these things, if you're scared to be vocal, if you're scared for people to cut off contact with you or to remove you from a friend on social media, if you're scared to be scapegoated yourself, you are fully responsible for keeping the system alive. The injustices that people of color experience are your fault, just like the rest of the majority of white people. You are not better than someone who is racist themselves because you allow it. You allow it. And if every single one of us that claims to not be racist went and took a stand, became vocal, didn't hide to protect themselves. There was uproars when a rich white person was just let go with a warning when they committed a hate crime, and we made big deals about these things because we genuinely cared. It wouldn't happen anymore. We held racist people accountable. If none of us tolerated it, the ones that said they're not racist, if we didn't tolerate other racists, I think we can end this whole racial hierarchy thing going on. We held cops and judges accountable. If we punished hate crimes to the fullest extent, if we had a zero tolerance policy for racism, if every racist person was blasted online by other white people, we took a stand and said we are no longer enabling other white people just because we don't want to be rejected by them. I think that this country could look a lot different. Nobody wants to do anything. Nobody wants to do anything. We want to pretend like they're doing something. They want to pretend like they care. But everybody moves about with their ego in mind. Everything is me, me, me. What will happen to me if I do this? What will happen to me if I'm vocal? What will happen to me if I'm an outcast? Who cares? Who cares if you're scapegoated? Who cares if you're an outcast? Do what's right. I just can't stand how weak people are.
How bad was slavery, Daisy? How bad?
It couldn't be any worse there. I just keep trying to tell you. Can anything be any worse when a white man was having children by the Negro slave women and then putting them up for sale on the block? Putting my father, they wanted to sell my father for a breeder for $12,000 when he was 12 years old. And old Golden, John Golden, was the rich planter. He wouldn't sell him for that. This lady that was in this room this morning is from New Orleans, one of the women. And just this past 2 weeks, she found this picture of my father down in New Orleans, and she's bringing it to me now. I'm going to have a copy of it, of my father.
Great. What regiment did he fight in, Daisy?
1st New Jersey Cavalry. When he ran away, my father was on the plantation working for his master, and he with 27 other boys ran away, swam across the Rappahannock River, and joined the 1st New Jersey Cavalry in 6th from the war.
Was he a good fighter, your father? Did he fight hard for the Union?
Oh, yes, dear, he was a brave boy. Actually, they had nothing else to do. He was a brave boy. He had to be brave to come up here in this country and make a living and get ahead and get on his feet and raise us family.
My family fought to save their farm under this flag. Who was working that farm? My family was. Who was working the farm? They were poor. Do you know how much a slave cost back then?
There's actually a knowable answer to that question. By 1860, at the time of the Civil War, enslaved people's value was somewhere between $200 on the low end all the way up to $2,000. So we're talking about, in today's dollars, maybe somewhere between $2,400 and, like $50,000. There are even some estimates that say that some enslaved people were valued at somewhere around $180,000 in today's dollars. So you can think of it basically like owning a car. And about 1.6% of Southern families owned more than 200 slaves, like having like a whole car dealership. But about 20 to 25% of Southerners at the time of the Civil War owned at least one enslaved person. It's like basically living in a society where wealthy people all have cars. Well, what do all the people who don't have cars want? A car. And even if a family worked on a small farm and didn't have enslaved people, what do you think their goal was? Their goal was to earn enough money to be able to buy people, to buy humans to do the work. It's not like families didn't aspire to have enslaved people. Why do you think that Southern whites were willing to go to war, to literally go to war against the United States for slavery? Because remember, every single state that seceded, all 11 of them said explicitly, we're doing this to preserve slavery. Well, why would somebody who's on a small farm want to fight to preserve slavery? Because their aspiration was to become a major planter, which means a major slave owner. That's what they all wanted to do. That's what they all aspired to do. And they also wanted to defend the system whereby they couldn't be enslaved. Only Africans could, only black people. And so that system of hierarchy that allowed any white person, no matter how rich or poor, to be superior to any black person, and for that black person to be captured and treated as property, and their children and their children's children owned by a white person, this is a system that benefited every single white person in the South. And by the way, every white person in the North too. Because even if you weren't a slave owner, you benefited from the economy that cotton production, that rice production, that all of these industries generated. You could benefit by being an insurance owner. Slaves were insured like cars. Enslaved people also produced goods that were sold. So if you were somebody who was in the shipping business or, the cotton milling business, all of them benefited from slavery. So whether you were a small farmer or a big farmer, the slavery system benefited you. And you were willing to go to war to preserve it and to preserve white supremacy because that was the whole basis of your society. And by the way, a lot of people in the South went to war simply because they were told to and because the rich people around them made sure that the poor kids were doing the fighting, right? And so it doesn't matter whether your family was rich, poor, had one slave or 10 or none. It doesn't matter. Everyone in the South benefited from that economy and that system, and they went to war to preserve it and to preserve white supremacy forever. So that's the answer to your question. You also told on yourself just by saying that at all, because why are you curious about how much they cost? You missed that system, right? You think things were better then? One last note. That flag is not even the flag that your forefathers fought under for their farm. That was not the flag of the Confederacy. That's a flag that they created afterwards. It's literally just a symbol of racism and white supremacy. And you're flying it because MAGA. Peace out.
So guys, apparently you have not been giving white people enough time to make it up to you. You have not given them any chance, any single chance for them to make up to you guys. Whatever happened to you, your ancestors, and everything that you have gone through, the traumas, the racism, everything that has been happening up to this day. They claim that you have not been giving them even a single chance. You have not given them even a single chance for them to make it right with you. Now, I know that is the most sort of horrible thing to hear at this point because it's been years, it's been ages. And I mean, if there was an excuse, that is definitely not one of them, because how do you explain that people that have been there for 400 years have not had a chance to make it right? It beats logic, and I do not know from what angle this person was reasoning, but that is what they said, and I know it's awful, because even though, and we all know that it's not possible for them to make it right and like reverse everything that happened. They can now not ask you people to sort of like be racist towards them or take them through slavery. They cannot do that. So it's not something that you can undo, really. But talking about just changing and having a shift of mindset and making it a little bit easy, and just making it a bit easier for Black people, it has always been doable, and it has always been possible. They just did not want to. They still don't want to. I do not believe that even when they're saying this, they're saying it out of, like a good plan to, like when someone talks to you and you can guess, you can figure that this person is actually speaking from their heart and this is exactly what they want to do. But for what this lady says, it does not seem like a plan that they have been having for a very long time. They just didn't know how to execute. It doesn't seem like that to me. I don't know about you people, and you might want to share that in the comment section. Let me know what you think about that. Does it sound genuine? Does it sound like you people have not given them a chance, a fighting chance, Haven't you been giving them an opportunity to make it right with you? Yeah. So there's a lot of ways that they would have shown remorse, There is an apology, and Black people have been talking about this thing for a very long time, and everyone has their ears locked. They do not want to hear, when someone is dedicated to not understanding, not hearing you when you cry. So they have had a lot of opportunities to make things right. For example, you cannot undo what happened, but you can make an attempt. You can make some effort, some little effort that shows these are people that have been remorseful. For example, an apology. Yeah. As white people, have they ever thought of whatever their ancestors did and how this thing has affected people? And sometimes you can make an excuse of you didn't know how much it affected people if they were not talking. Black people have been talking about this thing for a very long time. They have been saying it all over the place. For instance, for a person like me, I'm African, I'm from Africa. And the fact that I know about this and I know these struggles that Black people have been living through, it definitely means that it has gone global, and they are the first people that have known about it for a very long time. The rest of us are just learning of it through research, and it's not firsthand. But as for them, they have seen it, they have had friends that talk about it, they have even seen the consequences of whatever happened to your ancestors. For example, slavery. It has made many Black people not get very good opportunities, not the best of opportunities that you can think of. But then even when, for example, you go to a competition with a white person, they tend to be given more priority. They tend to be given more, like they're looked at as people that are worth it. And Black people are the other, And the one problem about being the other is that you always have to suffer a lot of consequences of things that you did not even do. Many people and many Black people are in prisons. Many of them are suffering things they did not do. They are innocent. No one is fighting for them. And if you try, and especially as a Black person, you are definitely getting yourself into problems, yeah? And nobody is talking about that. It's not like they do not know. They have social media and they see these things. And it's not even that it's starting the time of social media. even before the era of social media, these black people have been talking about these things. They have been talking about it, saying exactly how they feel about America, how they're being tortured, how they're being mistreated, how they're being misunderstood, yeah? When there's police brutality, these things, they have talked about them. The fact that even movies act and they have those scenes that portray that, it shows that it's not something that is not widely known. It is known, but they decide to make it so hard to understand, or let's just say they do not care. Yeah, because if they cared one bit, they would have found a thing or two to do about it, and it is possible. It is very possible to find something to do about it, because an apology, really, that should be the first step. Other than an apology, let people learn Black history in school. Let them learn that these people are not as useless as you're being taught, you know. The history that is being taught in schools is the white people's history, and it portrays them in good light and makes the black man look like they are nothing, they are nobody. Yeah, let schools teach the real history, the true history. Let schools teach exactly what happened. That is the second point of being apologetic. Say the truth, speak the truth, write the truth, eliminate everything that was done that was hiding something. You know, anything that was fake and any histories that were erased, bring them back. Let people learn about them. I was so surprised recently when we did a video with you guys and we were talking about the inventions that Black Americans have done in the past. And it was very sad and surprising that Black Americans have done a lot. They have done nearly everything. And if you watch the video, you can actually tell what my video's title was, is that Black Americans have invented nearly everything. Nearly everything. But then what credit do they get? Nothing. Every intellectual, you know, like those intellectual stuff, they have been stolen, patented by the white people, and they have taken rights to them as if they own them, when they know too well that they do not own the rights to those things because they did not invent them. Yeah. So such things make someone wonder if these are really the same people that are talking about being sorry, if these are the same people that are talking about being given a chance to correct. They have not been given a single chance. No, that doesn't make sense. It's not clicking right here where I am. And the other thing that they could do that would help with making it look like they have felt the pain and they are actually sorry, even though they might never be in any position to understand exactly how you have felt, but trying to do away with racism and making policies that are against racism. Working policies, not just in written and then there is no action. Working policies that protect the Black people and they protect them against being excluded, against being looked down upon, against any sort of discrimination. That is a way forward, you know. But as long as all these things are constant, racism is even going up, you know. Racism is even getting worse. And more people are actually teaching their children and portraying. And I really have a problem with the film industry in America. Why they keep portraying the Black people the way they do, you know? I might be wrong, but I do not like the way that they portray the African Americans because why do you do that? Why do you portray Black people as weak people? You know, the roles that Black people take are usually roles that are the roles you wouldn't want to do yourself because they just have a certain feeling, you know, like putting them down even more. And I'm not talking about the kind of putting them down to show and show the world what it is like to be an African American. No, I'm talking about the scenes that make it look like it's okay to have black people in this position, and then it's not fine for a white person to do this and this. One of the people that I watch is Tyler Perry. I watch lots and lots of Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry is an African American, and Tyler, the way he portrays blacks is beautiful because he uses his art to show exactly the experiences that black people have in America and the troubles that they have, you know, the things that they have to go through every day, every single day, just to exist, just to survive, to get a job, you know, to pay rent. There's this one that I was watching, I think it's called Straw, yeah? I have watched lots of them, by the way. You can share in the comment section which ones stand out for you. For example, Straw. Straw shows this lady, I forget her name. I know you know her. Not Tiffany. What is her name? Let me, just a second, I will remember. Taraji P. Henson. This lady has been used to portray, and you can tell, even if you have never had a friend, an African American friend, you can start to feel how it is like for them, the way that they struggle to pay even rent, the way they struggle with family and the disintegration, the way that they struggle with you know, like a lot of things. Paying rent, being thrown out of their houses without a care in the world, children being sick, how they have to beg their employers to allow them a chance, how they have to go a notch higher so that they can be hired. While it is easier for white people, they just get it through because, you know, they are the who and who's. Now, I'm not talking about that kind of portrayal. That is okay because that then shows the world what really being a black person in America feels like. Yeah. But I'm talking about this kind of portrayal that makes black people look terrible and violent, and they're just given some characters to play that are not so. They're very unsettling for me. I don't know about you people and how you watch them, if you ever like analyze them. But as for me, as a literature student, no, it doesn't like exactly sit right. So guys, you can also share your comments on that, what you think. And let's not forget the most important question. Haven't you people given the white man enough time, or even one chance, for instance, to prove themselves? Why are you not giving them a chance to show you the remorse that they have? Why aren't you giving them a chance to show who they really are? They want to show you their kindness, but you people are not allowing it. They want to show you how caring they are. They want to show you that they have the ability to not be racist, but you're not giving them a chance. What do you want, guys? Leave that in the comment section. Let's know what you think about this. Is this weird? Or is it crazy that someone would actually say that? So guys, I think I will see you on my next video. So subscribe. Oh, I almost forgot. Please subscribe to my channel. Let us grow together. We are now at 4,000, road to 100,000. Please subscribe. Make sure that after watching this video, you confirm that you actually are a subscriber. Returning subscribers, thank you so much for always choosing to be here. I will be here to make more and more content for you, and it's always a pleasure having you around. So guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like it a little bit too much, give it a super thanks, and I think I'll see you on my next one. Bye for now.